Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 1. And when I tell you that this was a spectacular premiere, this felt like I was watching old Atlanta seasons 1 through 7. I mean, they really came and gave us what the girls said they were supposed to have gave in the words of the iconic Rolling Ray. 10 out of 10. I enjoyed this episode from beginning, middle, and end. I love the chemistry between the ladies. I'm liking how it feels so organic. I didn't even miss any of the old people who are no longer on the show. That's how much I really like this cast. I think that we are in for an amazing season. I know I have said this before about several other franchises, but I really am putting my money on Atlanta because this premiere, again, gave what it was supposed to have gave. But y'all, I'm invested, I'm hooked, I'm excited, and there is nothing like being excited for a franchise because some of these other franchises have had me like, okay, like, where is the reunion because I'm over it. So, with all that being said, let us jump right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. Now, we start off this premiere episode with Kenya in rehearsals with her dance partner Brandon. Now, as you guys know, Kenya was on this last season of Dancing with the Stars. She was on there with Iman Shumpert, and he ended up winning the whole entire thing. And he was really good because I did watch this season. But Kenya did a great job. I actually voted for her. And like I had told you guys who watched my Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip recaps, I fell in love with Kenya when she was on that show. So I'm starting this season with a fresh slate, with a brand new pair of eyes when it comes to my girl Kenya Moore, okay? So all you Kenya Moore stans, yes, I guess you could say that I am Team Twirl, okay? So anyhow, we see Kandi and Marlo show up to the rehearsal and they're super excited to see Kenya. And it was so cute because Marlo was wearing the Rizzo costume that Kenya wore when it was Grease night on Dancing with the Stars. I have to say, I love seeing Kenya and Marlo getting along. I think that they are better together than they are apart. And we already know, seeing from the trailer, that things go left with them and that they're going to be on the outs. Well, we see it in this episode, but again, let me not jump ahead. So now the three of them sit down to have some girl talk and catch up. And then Kandi starts asking Kenya, like, was it just me or were you kind of flirting with your dance instructor? So she's being coy. And then Kenya starts asking Marlo about her love life. So she's like, are you still seeing that guy? And Marlo's like, look, it is not a love connection, but we hang out, we'll go out to eat, but I don't even know what he does for a living. And in the 10 years that Marlo has been on our TV screens as a friend of, we have yet to see her with a love interest. I mean, season 4, when she came on the show, made her introduction, she was dating that football player briefly named, what was his name? Like Charles Grant, but that was very short-lived. We've seen her with a few guys here and there, but nothing has really stuck. And it's always so interesting because even on like Instagram, or if you see her out on the blogs, she's never with a guy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm always curious about, the guys that Marlo dates. So anyhow, they're joking about that, and then Kandi makes a joke saying that the people still don't know what Marlo does for a living and how she gets her money. So Marlo's like, don't say that, Kandi, because I have La Archive out now, and we heard about La Archive in the last season. This is Marlo's baby. She pretty much rents out her designer pieces to production companies, celebrities, and she lets them wear them for a fee. Think of like Rent the Runway. Marlo's ultimate goal is to work with, all the hottest TV shows where she's renting out her pieces to them, and she hopes that the archive is in the closing credits of all the movies and TV shows. And we also find out that she recently worked with Tammy Roman on a project. And let me just say this quickly. I think that the jokes that Candy keeps making about how we don't know where Marlo gets her money, it's kind of old, because Marlo has been a friend of the show for over a decade, and they revealed her salary. She was making $300,000 for her appearances, and obviously since she's full-time, it's more. But think about that. I mean, $300,000 for doing, not that much work. She makes money from appearances. She's promoting products on her Instagram page. So she is bringing in money. So all those jokes about, nobody knows what she does and all this stuff. And like she said, she still has her coin from when she was dating the billionaire a decade ago. And I don't care what anybody says, I still believe that Marlo still has a nice amount of that money. Remember that her townhome is paid for outright. Her Aston Martin is paid for. There's no car note. He paid for her mom's home. I think that Marlo definitely got a nice package out the deal, okay? I do think that he left her with a nice parting gift. I don't think that Marlo was ever in need of funds. Just my opinion, I could be wrong. So while they're talking about old billionaires of the past, Miss Sheree Whitfield walks through the door, and Sheree is back. Third time's the charm. Now, before we get into their conversation, let me quickly say that I never liked Sheree. I always held this grudge for how she did Nene in season 1. She was so nasty to her. I always thought that she looked down on people. I just never liked Sheree. I thought her attitude was just nasty. I thought she was always very delusional. She was just way too concerned about what other people thought about her. Always trying to put on airs like she had all this money, when in reality, she really didn't. I still remember that Aston Martin getting repossessed and that house being foreclosed on. But anyhow, Sheree is back. I will say that Sheree usually does bring a good amount of drama. She's quick with the reads, and we know that Mama can start stuttering and stammering when she's on the hot seat about something. So Sheree is greeting everybody. Her and Kenya are on great terms. And it's just so funny because I remember when Kenya and Sheree first met, I think it was season 8? They, were at each other's throats at the first meeting. They hated each other. So to see them be, the best of friends now, it is just hilarious. So Kenya's like, girl, welcome back into the fold. Good to see you. How you doing? But I have to know, how is your man Tyrone doing? So Sheree's like, well, Tyrone is free. He's out of jail. They start screaming girl, stop it. What? When did this happen? We find out that while Tyrone is free, he can't come to Atlanta just yet, okay? They paroled him back home to Philly, so he's there for the time being. But they've seen each other. They've had sex. I could not stop laughing when they asked her how the sex was. And she was like, yeah, it was quick. I said, not Tyrone, was a minute man. But you know what? That's none of my business. So anyhow, Sheree's going on about how they see each other twice a month, but she's abstinent now, okay? The WAP has been put on hold. And they're like, girl, what the F are you talking about? You're abstinent. You haven't gotten any in a decade. And now your man is finally free and you're talking about you're abstinent? And she's like, I just want to make sure that he's still the same man that I fell in love with. I just want to make sure. In my opinion, I feel like Sheree is putting things on pause because maybe she's upset that Tyrone is finishing in a minute or less. I'm honestly still in shock that Sheree Whitfield, of all people, who prided herself on only getting with rich men, I'm just really surprised that she would want to be with a man who was in jail. Like, we don't know about Tyrone's finances. Like, does he have money? Does he have a job lined up? Like, I'm just really surprised because Sheree was always the first one to tell you that she wanted a man with a long coin. Now, we already know how Sheree acts when she's on the hot seat. So she's like, you know what? Enough about me. What about you, Kenya? Like, how's your dating life going? Kenya says it's pretty much non-existent because Mark still will not sign those divorce papers. Candy's like, what? Like, are you serious? She says, yes, girl. I'm like, if he won't sign these damn papers, like, let me go. Like, I want to be free. And I think that that is crazy that they are still going through this divorce. I just think that Mark is a sick man and he's determined to make Kenya as miserable as possible because when she wanted to make her marriage work, then he was rushing for the divorce. But now, since she's over him and she wants to move on, now he wants to hold things up. Like I said, Kenya, the next man that you get with needs to have a long coin and he needs to be madly in love with you. Please do not ever force a situation the way you did with Mark ever again. And now we have Marlo questioning Candy about her marriage to Todd. And she's asking Candy if they're having sex 5 times a day. And Candy's like, actually, we're not. Like, we go through ruts where sex is not being had. Like, we're just too tired. We're sitting in the bed watching TV and then falling asleep. I don't know what it is, but personally, I never saw that chemistry or that romance between Candy and Todd in the first place. Like, they always just gave me like good friends vibes. I don't know. I don't see that burning passion between them. I just don't. Like, I didn't see it in the beginning when they were just dating, and I definitely don't see it now. But I really did love this opening scene. It was great seeing the four of them just chopping it up, having a good time. Like I said, the chemistry was just perfection. It really felt like four friends catching up, having some girl time. It didn't feel forced. It just felt like old times again. Now we jump over to a short scene with Marlo, and Marlo has her first ever segment all to herself because she is officially a full-time cast member. So she's at home, it's early in the morning, and she is waking her nephews up for school. Now, we remember that Marlo has taken her nephews in because her sister is currently incarcerated. And her nephews have been living with her now for 3 years. Marlo says that it was just such an adjustment because she went from living by herself, living for herself, doing what she wanted to do 24/7, to now pretty much being a parent. And she refers to herself as a muntie, which is pretty much like a mom and an auntie combined. And I like the relationship that she has with her nephews. You can tell that she really does love them like they're her own children. And they're very happy to be living with her. So Marlo says in her confessional that her nephews went from eating McDonald's to now they're eating at the best restaurants and they're wearing designer clothes like Yeezys and they're riding around in a Rolls Royce. And she doesn't want them to forget where they come from. And when she said, I'm scared, like, I hope I'm not raising a monster. And it's like, no, I mean, you live the way you live. You live a very posh and elegant and upper crust life. So that's the life that your nephews are going to be exposed to. It is what it is. Now, I do hope your nephews don't pick up the awful habit that you have of constantly name dropping and discussing the designer pieces that you have on. Like, it's very tacky. But nonetheless, we are seeing a different side of Marlo, which is refreshing. It's nice to see her in a more gentle and sweeter lens because usually she's always reading somebody down, cursing somebody out, saying something kind of snarky and rude, and it's just nice to see her in a very lovable lens. Now we move on to a very interesting scene with Drew and Ralph in the car, and when I tell you this conversation had me screaming, they're on their way to work out, and Ralph is talking about how he used to be an athlete. He played football for Rutgers. And Drew is trying to find out, like, oh, you did? Like, what position did you play? He's saying that he played receiver. So she's trying to Google the stats, and she can't find him on the lineup. So, she's in her confessional, like, babe, what did you play? Like, were you even on the team? And he's like, yeah, I was on the team for 2 years. And it's just all this mess and all this confusion. And it's just very telling because it seems like with Ralph, there's always some holes to whatever story he's telling. He can never tell you the whole truth. So anyhow, Drew and Ralph arrive to the gym, and they are going to be working out with their friends, Sanya Richards-Ross and Aaron Ross. And we already know who the both of them are. Sanya Richards-Ross, who is the newest cast member, but don't get it twisted, Mama is a 4-time gold-winning Olympic champion. She is one of the best when it comes to track. And her husband, Aaron Ross, is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Drew says that she and Sanya met a while back, they hit it off, and they have become fast friends. Now, I loved when Sanya was in her confessional laying out all her stats, and when the producer got shady and was like, oh, I thought she won 3 gold and 1 bronze. And she was like, no, I won 4 gold and 1 bronze, but we don't talk about the bronze. I said, I know that's right. So we see the 4 of them working out. They started off with a race between Drew and Sanya. I said, now, why are you going to run one of the fastest women in the world? Like, Drew, you already know you weren't winning that, okay? I mean, Sanya was going easy, and she still just beat Drew like that. Like, Drew never stood a chance. I was like, if I ever want a super intense workout, I will be working out with Sanya and Aaron. Like, they were killing it, and Sanya's body is snatched. Like, she had an 8-pack. Now, Drew's talking about how she was approached to be the face of this company, and it's to help people lose hundreds of pounds, and it's called Dropping It with Drew. And I was screaming because Sanya was like, I don't know how folks are going to be dropping it with Drew when Drew can hardly drop into a squat. Like, Drew was really struggling during that workout. I mean, I was like, if anybody's going to be dropping it with anybody, I'd be dropping it with Sanya, because Sanya knows what she's doing. Now, the couples break off into pairs. Drew and Sanya are talking to each other, and then we see Ralph and Aaron talking to each other. Ralph is asking Aaron, how his marriage is going. Aaron's like, things are good. No complaints over here. We're straight. We've been together for almost 20 years. So now Ralph brings up that he's working on a book, and on top of that, he's also working on another business. Now, if I remember last season, Ralph said that he was in tech, right? And he was in some other business. Now he's writing a book. About what? And what's this other business? I don't believe a word that's coming out of Ralph's mouth. And I think that their marriage is very much like a Wendy Williams, Kevin Hunter situation, Sherry Shepherd, Jill Scott, Mary J. Blige, and Kendu. I think it's one of those lopsided situations where the woman, in this case Drew, is the breadwinner making the money, and she's trying to prop her husband up, but he's really not doing anything. That's what I think. But anyhow, Ralph is going on about how he had this assistant, and Drew freaked out and threatened him to fire this assistant. Now, the minute that came out of Ralph's mouth, I said, oh, he's on some BS, and he tried it. I give their marriage another 2 years tops. I don't believe for 1 second that Ralph is faithful. So on the other side of the gym, we see Drew and Sanya talking, and Drew's like, girl, how's your marriage doing? Because I had no idea that marriage was going to be so much work. So now Drew tells her side of the story, and she says that Ralph got himself this assistant, and she was checking his phone one day, and she saw some text messages between the two of them and the assistant was offering to give Ralph a massage. So Drew continues on by saying that, they were still getting over the whole Tampa stuff from last year. So to see these text messages between this assistant and her husband, it just hurt even more. I'm like, Drew, you catch another woman texting your husband about some massage and your man is entertaining this, you know what to do.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
Y'all don't understand that I would have hit Ralph with divorce papers the minute I saw those messages. I'm not going to give anybody an ultimatum. I'm not threatening anybody to act right and be with me. I'm not forcing anybody to be with me. If you want to be with somebody else, that's fine, because I'm out the door. I'm not tolerating any BS like that. It's just so ridiculous that Ralph even feels as comfortable to disrespect his wife like that. And Drew, Ralph firing the assistant means nothing, because if he wants to cheat on you with her, he will do that. And it seems like they're still in communication. I just think that their situation is very sad. You can tell that Drew's not really happy in this marriage, and she's really trying to save face and pretty much force this man to stay with her and act right. And it was really troubling when Drew said that Ralph told her that if he ever made her choose between his dreams or her, he's choosing his dreams. I said, that right there, sis, that's a huge red flag. He's telling you to your face that he'd be out the door. I'm like, Drew, you need to wake up. I would divorce this man. This makes no sense. And something tells me that no prenup was signed. So if they do get divorced, or should I say when they get divorced, I'm sure that Ralph will be walking away with half of whatever Drew has. A hot mess. So now we jump to a super short scene with all the ladies receiving their invite for Marlo's archive event. And it was so cool because this really pretty girl came to everybody's home, and she's like, okay, you're invited to Marlo's archive event. And she was dressed in this gorgeous dress, like beautiful girl, just stunning. I have to say, it's definitely one of the highlights of any episode when there's an event going on and all the women receive a very lavish invitation. It's just so fun to me. Like, I like being over the top. Now, while I enjoyed the invitation presentation, Kenya wasn't too impressed, and the young lady who delivered the invitation even said, well, that's not nice. Even I was confused as to why Kenya was shading the invitation. Like, I thought it was just fine. But anyhow, we jump over to see Sonia. She's at home. We learn that she and her husband Aaron decided to move to Atlanta permanently, and they have been in Atlanta for a year now. So their house is pretty much done being renovated. It's still, not quite, but pretty home, and her parents live with them. And her parents look amazing. Like, her mom looks so young. I thought it was her sister at first glance. Anyhow, they're having a nice family dinner, and Aaron says that he wants another child. He wants a daughter because they have a son. And the son is like 4 years old. He's adorable, by the way. So Aaron says, look, I want another sibling for our son. And Sonia's looking at him like, I don't know what to tell you, but that's not really on my agenda. And Sonia says that she does not want to put a strain on their marriage. We learned that when she gave birth to their son, Aaron had checked out of their marriage. And when Sonia said that, my heart broke. I was like, please don't tell me that something crazy went down in their marriage. It seemed like Sonia was trying to say more, but she didn't want to say more. Like, she was kind of talking in code. But if we know anything from watching these shows, the truth comes out eventually. So if something did happen in their marriage, we will find out. But that really made me sad to hear that Sonia felt like she was all alone when she had just given birth to their son. And Sonia's parents are a trip, because when her dad jumped in the conversation talking about, he would help out if they have another kid, and the mom was like, you ain't doing nothing. Like, shut up, sit there and eat your food. I could not stop laughing. I said, they are too much. But I'm really liking Sonya so far. I think that her and Aaron are a cute couple. And it is really cool to hear that they were college sweethearts. Now we jump over to another scene with Drew, and it's more craziness. She's at home with her 2 assistants and her private chef. I was like, Drew has private chef and 2 assistant money? Interesting. Drew, Sidora, hear me loud and clear. If there is ever another gift exchange, white elephant, secret Santa event this season, you better have a good gift. From Neiman Marcus, Saks, Hermes, Cartier, something. Because last year you tried it, and I will never forgive you for that. But anyhow, I digress. Drew's excited because she's expecting Sonya and Candy to come over to help taste test her meal preps for dropping it with Drew. So now Sonya arrives first and Drew makes her take a shot, and then Candy arrives and Drew's like, okay, I know you don't drink alcohol, Candy, but you have to take this shot before you come in. And when I tell you that Drew's assistant Anthony came out of nowhere and he was damn near forcing Candy to take that shot. And she was not too amused either. She was looking at him like, okay, you doing a bit too much. And was there really alcohol in that shot? I thought it was like a healthy shot, like a wheatgrass shot or like a ginger shot, because she is promoting health and wellness. So I was kind of confused, like, why would you be serving a shot with alcohol in it if you're trying to promote health, wellness? And you know that Candy doesn't drink, so it is kind of rude for you to force her to drink something with alcohol in it. Anyhow, let's just move on along. They go in the kitchen, and Drew's chef has prepared them the meal preps. So she made like a grilled shrimp with, I think was broccolini and asparagus. It looked pretty good. It was like 300 calories, so super healthy. So now Drew brings up how she was body shamed by Kenya last year. So now she continues on by letting them know that she got a hysterectomy, and on top of that, she ended up getting a mommy makeover. She adds that to maintain her health, she did her Drop It With Drew program and lost 25 pounds. Now, when she said that, Candy and Sonya were both staring at her like, Drew, I love you, sis, but you're not being entirely truthful.
No.
Now, let me just say this. Drew is a pretty woman, nothing against her looks, but 25 pounds is rather noticeable. And Drew is very short. I think she's the same height as Candy, and Candy's only like 5'1", 5'2" herself. So if she lost 25 pounds, it would definitely be very noticeable. And she honestly looks the same as she did in the last season. So when she said 25 pounds, I was like, am I seeing things? Because she would look noticeably smaller, right? No, yes, am I crazy? But I was like, Drew, I'm really not buying what you're trying to sell. Now, they switch gears in the conversation, and Sonya brings up what they were talking about at the gym earlier. Drew starts spilling the tea about how Ralph's former assistant offered to give him a massage. Candy's like, hell no. So as Drew is discussing this mess, all of a sudden Ralph comes in through the garage, and it's apparent that he was eavesdropping. So Ralph rolls in talking about, oh, I heard what you were saying. What's the version of the story that you're going to tell? So Candy and Sonya are both like, Ralph, we want to hear out of the horse's mouth, like, what the F is going on? So now Ralph is on his BS yet again, saying how they have 2 marriage counselors who understand his side of things. And then he has the nerve to say that he had some back pain that Drew knew nothing about. I'm like, if you had some back pain, go to a chiropractor. Go get some icy hot. You talking to another woman about getting a massage is unacceptable. So Candy and Sonya are both like, are you serious right now? Ralph's going on saying that if she was trying to shoot her shot, she would have done it. Candy says, let's not act stupid, Ralph. She was definitely trying to shoot her shot. Like, she shot her shot by offering you a massage. So now Candy says, look, Ralph, what was your response back to her when she offered you the massage? So he says, well, I just said, I'm a guy. So Candy interjects and says, look, you already let this woman know that if you want something to happen, it will happen. And she's exactly right. Because if this man really respected his wife and his wedding vows that he took before the good Lord, he would have shut that down immediately. I was getting so irritated watching Ralph not disclose the woman's name. I'm like, all these jokes about, I don't know her name, her name is the assistant. It's like, this isn't funny. And when they were all laughing about it, I'm like, what are y'all laughing about? Nothing about this is comical. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was already cheating with this woman, and that's why he hired her, so that he could have even closer access to her. Now we move on to the final scene of the episode, and it is the day of Marlo's fabulous La Archive event. Marlo arrives to the venue first, and she's getting ready. She's getting her hair done, makeup done. She's gonna have 2 outfit changes, and she is super excited. We see all the ladies start arriving one by one. Candy and Todd arrive. We see Sonia arrive. Drew's there. And we also see some other famous faces. Angela Simmons is there. Light-skinned Keisha is there. Alonzo Arnold is there. Just some, big-time people in the fashion world as well. Other stylists. So it's a very well-heeled crowd. I remember when they were filming this event, because all the blogs were like, oh my gosh, Angela Simmons is going to join. She's going to be, a cast member. And I was thinking, I seriously doubt it. She's another one with a very flat personality. Like, my goodness. There's never any inflection in the voice. Just very dull, flat, one note. Like, my God. Do you show excitement about anything? But you know what? Everybody can't be vibrant like us. It's a gift. Now, Marlo, $40,000 on this event. Fabulous. I love it. But sis, when I heard that there was no champagne, it was only sparkling Moscato, I said, come on. Girl. Marlo, I expect more. Heather Dubrow would never. So now we see Sonia and Drew looking around. Drew's unimpressed, and Sonia is confused as to what Marlo's business is. She's like, is she selling these pieces? Is she renting them? Like, what's going on? Then we see Candy talking to Drew and Sonia, and she's asking them if it's going to be a fashion show or any models going to attend. Like, she just wants to get the vibe of the night. Sheree comes through, she greets everybody, and then she says to Drew and Ralph that she's heard so much about them. And then she kind of does a nervous laugh when Ralph's like, well, I hope all good things. I was like, yeah, Sheree was watching all last season and she saw all that Tampa mess too. Now, while this event, party, whatever you want to call it, is going on, Marlo is still getting ready. Like, we see her wig still being installed. I'm like, now I understand being fashionably late, but not too much. Like, girl, you showed up at 5 p.m. You've been in the dressing room now for a good 3 hours. You should be ready. So now we see the ladies talking. They're wondering where Marlo is. And then somebody makes mention of how Kenya's not there yet. So now Drew brings up how she and Kenya clashed all last season and didn't get along. I'm like, Drew, you just want a moment, because why do you need to bring that up? Drew is just very thirsty to me. There's this hint of desperation every time she's in front of the camera. And then finding out that she'd auditioned for the show 3 times, it all makes sense. But I'm just thinking, it's not the time to bring up your issues with Kenya. Like, enjoy the night. Don't bring the mood down. Grab a drink. Like, stop. And then we see Kenya arrive, and Drew's the first one with her arms out trying to get a hug from her. I'm like, how crazy do you look? You were just talking about how, you don't really like her, y'all clash, how, she's not an enemy, but you have your eyes open, but now you have your arms out for a hug? Girl, bye. If I had some lingering resentment towards somebody who I didn't care for, I'm not reaching out for a hug. That's not happening. So Kenya greets everybody. She's now introduced to Sonya, and now she immediately starts shading. She's like, now Marlo picked a gorgeous venue, but where's the decor and where is the food? Then Kenya and Sonya point out that the archive is not even spelled correctly. But I was screaming how they pointed that out because Marlo really acts like she just knows all things Parisian, and the fact that she spelled it wrong is just very comical. And I watched Marlo on Watch What Happens Live, and she was really defensive when Andy talked about that. She was like, let Sonya worry about what she has going on. I was like, Marlo, if you spelled it incorrectly, you spelled it incorrectly. Take the L on the chin and just deal with it. Now, Drew pulls Kenya to the side and she's like, can we just talk for a minute? It really bothers me at how we didn't hit it off last year. And I really just want us to start off on a fresh, clean slate and try to be friends. Kenya says, sure, why not? If me and Marlo can be cool, me and Drew can be cool too. And I said, see, Drew, you see how easy that is when you just admit to yourself that deep down inside, you really just want to be friends with Kenya. So Marlo finally joins her own party and makes a grand entrance. And now she goes over to her girls and they're just asking her some questions about her business. Sonya starts asking if all these pieces are hers, and Marlo says, yes, they are, and I'm renting them out. Now, there was this really gorgeous Valentino dress that Marlo was showing them. She bought it for $15,000, and she was renting it out for, I think it said $3,000 a day, and it's a 7-day max. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that Marlo's business is a cool concept, but if I wanted that Valentino dress, whether I wore it one time or 5 times, I'd want to keep it. And I wouldn't want to pay $3,000 to wear it one time. I'd rather just buy it. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if I'd want to spend that amount of money to just rent it, if that makes sense. And when Drew asked if she could rent some of the pieces, and Marlo said, girl, when was your last gig?
You know what? It's too much.
Are you still in the industry? I was like, the shade of it all. Not you low-key calling Drew a has-been to her face. But I said, Marlo, that's really shady because you're low-key calling her broke too. Like, you don't even think that she can afford to rent one of your pieces. And I understand because anytime somebody comes to a Secret Santa and brings a stale $34.99 wig when everybody was supposed to spend $1,000, I'd have some questions about their finances too. But again, I digress. Marlo's telling them to enjoy the rest of the night, go and have some hors d'oeuvres. The hors d'oeuvres look good. They have this lobster cucumber bite. Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering as we speak. So Marlo leaves to go have a second outfit change. Now the girls are talking amongst themselves. And Sonya's like, is this it? Like, no more clothes? I thought it was going to be a fashion show. So now Marlo comes back out in her second outfit change. I hated that dress. I don't care if it was Gucci, Versace, Valentino, Alaya, Celine. I did not like it at all. Nobody seemed to like it either. And when Sheree said that that dress reminded her of that strawberry candy that everybody's grandma gave them during church, I hit the floor. I said that's exactly what that dress looked like. Marlo gives this crazy speech that made no sense. I was like, girl, this is not it. You should have written something beforehand because this speech was all over the place. Nobody knew what you were talking about. This just didn't feel like a fun event to me. Nobody seemed like they were having a good time. Everybody seemed bored and is checking their phones. Like, I don't know. I don't think that this was a great use of Marlo's money. I think that she kind of dropped the ball on a lot of things. It just wasn't as fabulous as it should have been. The pieces were amazing and gorgeous, but it still just fell really flat. Marlo finishes her speech, and now we see her greeting some of the fashion stylists who are in the room. And she's super excited because Claire Summers from Fashion Bomb Daily is in the building, and she's just really excited because that is great exposure for her brand. Now, here's where it gets real messy. Sheree and Sonya decide to go over to Marlo to report to her what everybody has been saying about her event. I thought this was really messy, especially for Sonya, because Sonya was saying a lot. I was like, Sonya, I like you. Please don't have me changing my view of you. Like, there was no reason for you to do that. I hate how Sheree is always instigating and reporting back and being the bone collector. Don't get into that either. Like, I didn't like that. That just wasn't cool. Sonya and Sheree say, girl, they were talking about, where are the models? Where is the show? Like, that's it? Then Sheree says, and girl, Kenya was asking where you get your money from. I said, Sheree, why are you being messy when you and Kenya are now good friends? So Marlo's really pissed off hearing this. And she's like, well, that's how they do it in France. Like, I wanted the event to be like a museum. But these girls don't know nothing about that. Then she says, and Kenya talking about where I get my money from, she was the one living in a hotel with a white refrigerator. So what is she talking about? Then she goes for the jugular and says how Kenya used to be real broke and was borrowing Lisa Ray's Range Rover. So now Sheree says, yeah, girl, I heard that too. I said, Sheree, when it comes to money, not too much, sis. Because let's not forget, it took you about 8 years to build Chateau Sheree. And you were cheating the builders, and you ran out of money, and that's why it took so damn long. Because if you had the money, that house would have been up in a year, and it took you 8. And word on the street is the house is in your mom's name because your credit is shot. So I keep it real cute, speculating and talking about somebody else's finances. You are the epitome of trying to keep up with the Joneses and living above your means to flex on somebody. So don't start. While I don't care too much for Marlo, I have to say I understood why she'd be so upset, because nobody wants to hear some criticism about their event while the event is still going on. And it's like, just support me. I've spent all this money on it. Just have a good time. While Sheree, Sonya, and Marlo were talking, we see Candy and Drew talking. Candy says that she found Ralph's former assistant. So Candy says, I thought it was kind of weird because here's her latest post and here's the caption. So the caption says something like, if I wanted to, I will. So Candy says, it seems like she's throwing a subliminal to you. And Drew says, oh my gosh, it does sound like she's talking to me. I said, well, duh, Drew. Obviously, Ralph is telling this assistant what's going on. He's on the phone with her saying, yeah, my wife thinks that XYZ, she went through the messages. She knows something's going on. Obviously, she's throwing shots at you. Drew, this man is playing in your face. The fact that she's throwing subs at you on Instagram, just a mess. Now, Marlo, Sheree, and Sonya come back and join the girls, and Marlo is pissed after hearing the news that the women were shading her event. So Marlo says, I'm just so disappointed that y'all would be talking about my event after I put in all this hard work. Like, it's just crazy. Now Marlo says, look, y'all take a ticket because I'm about to read all y'all one by one because y'all tried it. So Kenya says, now Marlo, please have a seat because you can't read. Like, stop. That is not your strong suit. Girl, I'm the reader in this group. Marlo has a few one-liners, but yeah, she's not the best reader. I still remember when Eva got her together when they were in Japan. When you think about it, all of Marlo's reads are usually about material, designer goods, and if somebody doesn't have them or not. Like, that's usually where her reads start and end. So now Sonya admits that she was running her mouth too, And then Marlo interrupts, and then she starts reading Drew about Drew's hair being in a French roll. Now Marlo calls Kandi out, and Candy's like, look, all I said was, I love the fashions. I just wanted to know how you make your money. I said, damn, Kandi really is fixated on Marlo's money because she's always mentioning it. I mean, she's been talking about it since season 4. Like, let it go. She has money. Why do you care so much? Kandi, you're worth about $50 million. Why are you so pressed about how another woman makes her money? It's so annoying. So Marlo explains how much the archive charges. She says that the rental is 25% per day. It's a 7-day max, and that's how she makes her money. Then Kandi wants to know how Marlo paid for this event. Marlo plays coy. She's like, girl, it was light work. I said again, Kandi, it's in poor taste for you to ask Marlo how she paid for an event. If you're so concerned about her finances, then write her a check. My mom used to always say, don't ask people how much they spend on something unless you want to cover the cost. It's rude. And also, when it comes to certain things, especially like events or travel, designer, luxury goods, you don't need to ask somebody what the price is. If I see somebody with a limited edition Chanel purse, I don't need to ask them how much it is. 1, I can Google it. 2, I already have a general sense of how much the purse was. But honey, with these recent price increases, now the small bags are starting off at $4,500. So a medium-sized one I saw the other day was like $7,800. And I said, well, damn, I should have gotten it when it was $5,200. But that's another story for another day. Kandi makes a snide remark in her confessional that it looks like Marlo is still pinching the money that she got when she was with the billionaire. I said, Kandi, do you want to be put on with her billionaire ex? Because the way you keep talking about him, you bring him up more than Marlo does. So now Kenya goes on to ask if Marlo's nephews are in private school, and Marlo says no. Then Marlo goes around asking if they went to private school growing up, and everybody says no. So obviously it's very tense between the women because Marlo is visibly aggravated that these women are shading her event behind her back. So now she walks off, and that is the end of the episode. Again, this was a quality 1 hour and 15 minutes worth of TV. A fantastic premiere. I got my entire life, and I enjoyed every single minute. This is how you do a premiere. This is how you do a cast shakeup. Love it. 10 out of 10. Potomac, take notes. But with all the mess going on with Potomac, I mean, Candace and Karen are at odds. Candace and Giselle are at odds. Giselle's running her mouth about Chris supposedly liking her. Ashley and Michael getting divorced, which we already knew was going to happen. And I predicted last year that season 7 would be the year that they got divorced. I need to go into fortune telling at this rate. But y'all, fabulous premiere. I enjoyed myself. I hope you all enjoyed my recap. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.